Hi, everybody. It's Diana with Stamping with Di. Welcome to my YouTube channel and this week's Mimeograph Monday with a twist. And I'm going to be using the new Artisan Sketched Garden DSP, and it's a really fun designer series paper because it's like black and white, so you can just color it or leave it as it is, but it's really fun. So that's what I'm going to play with today, as well as some other stuff. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Diana and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm in Santan Valley, Arizona. So welcome. So during the video premiere, I'm in the chat room, so head on over there. That's where I'll be with my friends. Otherwise, if you are watching the replay and you have a question or a comment, just leave it below and then I'll reach out to you. So today is my Mimeograph Monday with a twist. So if you are new to my channel, I'm going to do two projects. So the first project is like Stampin' Up's card. Now, sometimes I'll change it just a smidge if I don't have something. And that's like today, one of the designer series papers that they used on the card, I don't have, so I just use something that kind of gives the same kind of look. And then I'll do a second one, which is more of my taste, and then that is the twist. So this has been a really fun series, and I love seeing the reaction. And it's a great way to, if you're in kind of like a crafting funk, you know, you can't decide what to make or whatever, just open up the catalog, go to my blog, just get some inspiration somewhere and like copy it, case it, whatever. And then sometimes that will do it, because then you're like, well, if I was going to make that, I would do this or that. And then it just gets you right out of that, when you lose your mojo or whatever. So anyway, so I'm like, I'm seeing this sign I stuck and I'm like, I better show it to you, because if you only see certain words of it, you're going to go, what the heck? So look at this sign back here. Let me get my head out of the way. It says, heifer, please. The butter done slid off your biscuit. That is hilarious. So I just love funny sayings and just weird things. So if you've ever been to, my studio, you realize that. So anyways, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to stop my blabbing, since we do have two projects to do. So close your eyes for a second while I get my camera adjusted. Here is the card I'm going to do. And it's hard to see in the picture, but they used paper medley, mix-in 12 designer series paper. And I didn't have that, so I'm using the Subtles Painted Patterns. So I'm going to use this instead. So, because this card just had like a pale blue striped kind of paper back there. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use this paper because it's really fun. This is the new, like, no, I shouldn't, well, it's not new. It is new, but we've always had, like patterns where it's like the whole color family, but usually it was a 6x6 pack, and they changed it to 12x12, and I love that, because 12x12, if it might be harder to store if you have like a small area, but you can do more with the 6x6 because you can use it as is. It's like a big, sometimes when you're doing 3D things, you need a bigger piece of paper, or you can cut it down. So this has like polka dots, and on the other side it has big polka dots. Then you have stripes on one side, and then like watercolored stripes, because that's kind of what this is, right? Like it's kind of watercolory. And then they're more like distinct, like solid. So that's what I'm using. I'm using this paper here, and it comes in the 4 color families and the in colors as well. All right. I'm also going to be using, this is the Artisan Sketched Garden, and you can see where I've trimmed out the patterns I'm going to use. But this is really fun paper. Like I said, it's black and white. So you have like things you can watercolor. There's like smaller ones for backgrounds. Like, look how cool this is with the big, you know, bold black. And then you could go in there and color those flowers. Very, very cool. So it's just got some really neat patterns. And then you've got some stripes. So yeah. All right. So that's what we're going to be using. All right. I'm also using a family celebration. That's the greeting they used. They also used the 1 7/8 punch. Now, I've done some of this stuff ahead of time, just because remember I am doing 2 projects, so it's going to take a little bit longer, you know, than maybe a regular video. All right, so I punched out my 3. So here's my card pieces. All right, so I cut out my 3 plants, and we'll color those with the blends. I punched out my 3 circles with basic white, and then you put them in the Fern and Flora 3D folder. So I simply just laid them in there, ran it through the machine. Now remember, this is 3D, so it uses a different sandwich when you run it through. Never force stuff through your machine. So if you are using like the 3D one and it doesn't want to go through, do not force it. Look at your sandwich layer. All right. We have a special platform to use for that. All right. So I am going to get my not mono, my Tombow glue, because this is glued right to the card. And by using the green tip glue, it just gives me a little wiggle room, because this is going to lay right on that card. And this is just a basic white, thick cardstock base. And the green tip glue just gives me a little bit of play before it sticks. All right, now we have our greetings. I'm just going to use my foam mat. I just grabbed a piece of petal pink scrap I had in my cupboard. All right. And it's going to say, "To my mom." And this uses the new Crisp Cantaloupe ink. And this is petal pink. And I love these new pads. You just go like this and then they stick because there's a magnet. It's so much easier to use. All right, so we have happy birthday. Now this says happy birthday to my, but I just want the to my, but I'm just going to stamp the whole thing, because we're just going to fussy cut it out. And then mom. And I'm going to stamp it a couple times. I haven't used this set yet, so I need to kind of get it primed so the ink wants to stick. See, that's better. So if you had issues with the ink wanting to stick to the photopolymer, just, you know, ink it a few times, or you can, like if I keep having issues. Nope, that worked. You can ink it in Versamark first, and then, you know, tap that off, and that Versamark kind of takes any of the little oils or whatever that might be on that photopolymer. All right, because like I said, I hadn't used that stamp set yet, so it was, you know, could have been a little greasy, you know, from being made. All right, so where is my... All right, so now we want to paint these, or not paint, but color these. So I have my blends that it says to use. Okay. So we have, so we have crumb cake and crumb cake. So we have light crumb cake. And then we'll do dark crumb cake. So see how kind of this is neat, where I didn't have to stamp anything. I mean, I did the greetings, obviously, but these are already like on the DSP. All right, and then my vases are just going to be smoky slate, but I'm not coloring them all the way in. They're just kind of, they just have a little bit of color added to them. So this is smoky slate. So this is fun to sit and, you know, since you have like that whole pad, right? That whole pack of DSP, you could sit there and watch a movie and just color the whole 12 by 12 sheet. And then when you're ready for it, it would be already colored. And it's fun too, like, because this is great paper to practice. If you're new to the Stampin' Blends, just use this as a practice. You know, you can sit and practice your shadowing, maybe mixing of your colors. Now the DSP is different than our cardstock, you know, so it's going to take the ink a little bit different, you know, than the color cardstock, but still. All right, so I'm just adding a little bit there and there. All right. Then we have our crisp cantaloupe, or my tulips. So we have the light crisp cantaloupe. And then as this dries, it will lighten up. Because the DSP is like, you know, a different thickness than the cardstock. All right. And then I'll do my dark. So the DSP will get wet quicker than the cardstock. Okay. Then I have flowers over here. And I'm going to have those be Golden Glow. So this is just light Golden Glow. I think that's all the flowers there. And then the dark. Okay. And then we have, now I didn't use the dark of the smoky. All right. And then we have our Peaceful Pines. And this is going to be all of the greens. All right. So we have light Peaceful Pines. So I'm just going to go in there with the light, and then we will accent them with the dark. So just kind of, sometimes you have to look like how these are coming down so you're not coloring in a white space. See, this leaf comes down like that. Not that I don't think anybody would say, oh, you colored that leaf wrong. There. Okay, and then I'll use the dark. Just add a little dark here and there. Peaceful Pines is a kind of a fairly dark green, so I'm not going to put too awful much in there. All right, and then I'm just going to do the same with these ones. It's kind of neat. We have a darkish green like this because we don't have a garden green Stampin' Blends. There's a couple colors that we don't have a blend for. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I just know that garden green is one. So it's kind of neat that we have, you know, this kind of green that can kind of work with your garden green. You know, it's not like bright like lemon lime lolly or lemon lime twist or granny apple. You know, those are kind of like a bright green. Now we have Mossy Meadow, which is very, very dark. I love that one. It's a color of my car, actually. All right, so I'm just coming in here and coloring these leaves. Again, I'm using the light. What is this? Pine, peaceful pine. And I think this is one in here. So this is kind of, it has a lot of leaves in here, this one. All right. And then I'll do my dark. Let me move my camera over. Hang on a second. I was like, can you see what I'm doing? I'm just like having so much fun coloring. I sometimes forget to look up at the screen. Okay, so this is the dark. So I'm just going in there. So I can't wait to do my twist with this because I've been wanting to play with all of this. All right. So there we have that. Now I'm going to you know, simply fussy cut these out. So there's not a die. So you just have to fussy cut. I'm almost certain there's not a die. Do you ever do that? You like say something, then you second guess yourself. I'm just fussy cutting them out anyways. So I'm just spinning. I'm turning the paper with my left hand since I'm right-handed. And then I just squeeze the scissors with my right. And it makes cutting out so easy. Let me take some of that extra paper away. All right. So I am leaving a bit of a border. So it doesn't go right up in there. So it's just a bit of a white border around it. And you won't see it tons because I am putting, you know, these will get adhered to white paper. So it'll make it less obvious, you know. All right. So hopefully you had a good holiday weekend. I am not a fan. I guess when I was a kid or before we had dogs, I don't mind going to like firework displays. You know, if you go somewhere and I remember when we were in Illinois one time and we sat beside a cornfield and watched them and you could see the fireflies and all that. It was so cool. But I'm not a fan of fireworks that people can buy and they put them off in their yard. It is so dry here in Arizona and people are just, I don't even want to use the word because it's not a nice word, but you know what I'm saying, right? And poor Winston, and I not just Winston, I mean the neighbor dogs. I mean, there's so many. We belong to like a Facebook group for the neighborhood, and there were so many pictures and comments like the dogs were, getting loose. They're so scared. I mean, there's been horses, that have trouble and everything. So I don't know. I guess I just don't understand why it is not a chargeable offense. I mean, because they start setting them off like a week in advance, and you're like, come on. So anyways, that's my little I can't even think of the word complaint. but hopefully you could go where you could see some legal ones. All right, so just cutting these out. Like I said, I'm leaving a little bit of a white border. And what's nice is when you're cutting out the designer series paper, it's a great thickness, right? So it just cuts out so easily. I love to fussy cut. I get that from my granny. Oh my gosh, she cut out so many things for just, magazines. She'd have a box of, maybe it was zoo animals or whatever. And then whenever we have to do a school report, Granny was like the best, better than the library sometimes. Because you'd go, Granny, we need, um, to do a book report about bears. And she'd be like, oh, okay, well, let me get this box down that might have, whatever in it. And she had cut all that out. So anyway, so I think that's where I get my cutting love from. All right. Some people hate fussy cutting, and I apologize if that's you, but hopefully you just have fun watching me do it. All right. So we have our paper that we have already glued our striped paper on. I'm also going to fussy cut out Mom. I'll do this better. I just want to get it off of that. And then we want to My, because we're not using the happy birthday. We're just using the to My. And doesn't have to be perfect. I've been watching this YouTube channel. And what is she called? Ginger. Oh my gosh, I can't think what it is. Ginger Chick Rehab, I think it is. And she always says, it's perfectly imperfect. And I'm like, that can be, you could say that for stamping too. All right, so we have our circles. So I'm going to put these on with the green tip glue because they do have like a 3D, they're 3D embossed. So they're already going to like sit up, off the card just because of being embossed. And so I don't want to pop them up anymore because I'm going to pop up the other things. All right, so we have this one down here. And then the green tip glue, it gets in the nooks and crannies. All right, and then I'm going to put this on, which is going to help me figure out where to put these other ones. And oh my gosh, I have ink all over my hands already. It's going to be a good day when you have ink all over your hands. All right, so I'm going to put some dimensionals. Okay, so this one just kind of goes down like this. And then Mom is going to go over here. So I'm just going to put a dimensional right here, because the rest of it is going to rest on here. Now, if this bothers you, you can easily just take your green tip glue, give a little squirt, and then that'll stay in place. Speaking of squirt, I was called Squirt as a kid. Isn't that funny how you say something and then it goes, hey. All right, then we have this one here. This 3D folder is so cool because look at all the vines and all that kind of stuff. All right, now this one goes here. I'm just looking at the picture. All right, so this one goes here, I think. All right, and again, I'm going to put my flower. And then comes down like that. And then we have this one. Now you can put these folders either way. Like this is concave, I guess that would be, and then this pot pushes it out. I think that's the official push out. I don't know. I am not a wordsmith. Is that even a word? See, I don't even know if that's a word. If that's like makes sense. But anyways, I am not a good grammar person. How does that sound? That sounds pretty bad. All right. So then we have this one. And he kind of goes behind this plant. Like that. And then we're going to put two my. And how to cut that good? Is it a good thickness? I don't want to see the dimensionals sticking out. So to my Mom. And then we'll go up here. And this just goes here. So there's the first one. So like I said, I changed that designer series paper, but I think it looks just as good. Now, nothing's on the inside. But all right, so there is the first one. Okay, so now let me do more of my taste for my twist. Okay, so for my twist, I'm going to use some different plants. I already cut them out to save a little time. All right. So I kind of wanted to do some that had like the water in there. And I also did do this one again because I kind of liked that long looking planter thing, whatever. All right. So let's just start to color our plant. So I'm going to do the same smoky slate on here. But I am going to change the colors of my leaves. So let's do the smoky slate. And I'm going to start from the top. Kind of work down a little bit. Just put a little bit on the bottom. Okay. And then we'll take our light smoky and then just fill that in. So it just makes that center be brighter. Just going to go over those lines a little bit. And then I'm going to take that smoky again and then just add a little bit to the top. And a little bit to the bottom. Just because when you go in there and use that light, it will soften it a little bit. Okay. Love it. All right. And then the leaves, I'm going to make them be brighter, of course. And I'm going to use my garden green, not my garden green, my granny apple. So I'm going to fill these in a little bit more down here in my vase. So there's a little bit more greenery happening. And then I'll do my dark lemon lime. I love those colors together. But I just wanted to fill this in a little bit more. Okay, and then I want to make my tulips be red. So I'm going to take my dark crumb and I'm just going to put a little dark crumb on the left side here. And then I'm going to make these be Poppy Parade. But by putting that crumb in there first, it's going to give us kind of like 3 shades of Poppy Parade. Now I'm going to take my dark Poppy Parade. I'm going to go right over the crumb and a little extra. So it's going to be dark over that crumb. So it gives me like an extra little bit of a dark Poppy Parade. And then if you go out a little bit, you have your regular dark Poppy Parade. And then we'll come in and we'll finish it with the light Poppy Parade. That bright spot. Very cool, right? And we'll go in and we'll add, you know, some gel pen and stuff like that. All right. So then we have some other flowers. Now I'm going to take my dark pool party and we're going to make these, you know, we can see the water, right? So we have our dark pool. Now, pool party is a little hard to see on camera. All right, so I'm just going to kind of come down. And then we'll come in with the light. Okay. And we'll finish with the light. I need to get out some new pool parties, I think. Sometimes I can just tell the way they sound as well. Now this paper also will take the blends differently, like it will suck it up more because just because of the way that the paper's made. So the DSP will, you know, that sounds horrible to say suck it up, but that's what it's going to do. It's going to suck that paper up. All right, now I do also want to give a little bit of color to my jars like the glass part. So I'm just going to take some light gray granite. And we're just going to put a little bit, cut down the side as well. Because that jar goes down there too. All right, I'm also going to put it here. I'm going to have the base be gray. And then my dark gray. Hold on a minute there. Sometimes when I get coloring, I think of something after. All right. So usually I try to have them at the ready, but I don't always. Okay, so that one's done. All right, now this one is kind of like twigs. You know, they look like twigs to me. So I'm just going to take that dark crumb. And I'm just going to draw my twigs. And then we'll add flowers or leaves to them, but we'll just get the branches on there. All right, now this one has some as well. And I'm going to make those ones be green. All right. Now, so these ones, I'm going to have them be really, really like fun. And I don't even know if there's such a plant, but I'm going to go light freesia. And we are just going to color these. We're not trying to stay in the lines. These are just a bunch of whatever they are. They're kind of like a filler plant, right? But I'm having them be purple instead of just a bunch of green leaves. So this is just our dark freesia. And then I'm going to go in there with the dark highland and just put a little here in there. Just kind of dotting it in there. And we'll go in there and, you know, add some gel pen and stuff, but that looks cute. All right, so that one's done. Okay, so this one, I'm going to do, let's see, some of the colors I already have out. So let's do some crisp cantaloupe again, since I already had that out. So light crisp cantaloupe. And then the dark. But I'm also going to add a little calypso, because they look really good together. And it's just given a little darker in that, you know, down deep in there. All right. And then we'll get our lemon lime twist. And like before, I'm going to kind of fill in some of this so that it looks a little fuller. Okay, so I like the look of that one. And then we have one more. And I'm going to have these flowers be yellow. So I did pick dark lemon lolly. For these flowers, whatever they are. And then we'll go dark daffodil. Those look really good together, those two. Okay. And then I'm going to take some of this to kind of, get these to go together. So I'm going to do some of these filler things in the back here with that flirty. So we're just going to have, some of these things have a little color than just green. And then we'll come in with green, but I just wanted to put a little bit of, other color in there. All right, so this is that dark granny. So we'll have that be in the, as their stems. And then we'll put some of these as leaves. Okay. And then we'll take our lemon lime twist. And I did the same thing when I cut them out. I left that white border around there. Just add a little bit here and there. So there's not too much white. All right. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. All right, now I am going to take my Winkostella. So we're going to take our Winkostella and we're going to add that to the water. And this is just going to give my water, it's just going to sparkle, right? So it looks like water. This, I think my gel pen's on, or not this. What is this? Winkostella. I think she's almost empty. I use things till they are like empty. Okay, so there is the, so see now, as the light catches it, let me see if it'll catch up there. So see, you can see that twinkle a little bit. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to add some gel pen. So let's add our gel pen. And then they can dry while I put my card pieces together. All right, so I'm just going to use the gel pen. I'm so glad that you can get these now. And I don't have to send you elsewhere. All right, so I'm just going to put a little highlight. And I love adding white stuff. All right, can you tell? All right, so then we have our flowers. So I'm just going to put some little dotty dots in the flowers there. And same with our Highland ones. So by putting the little dots, they kind of remind me of those little, when you buy those, the fake plants, and then they have the little berries. It kind of reminds me of that. All right, so that's done. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, now I'm going to just set those aside so they can dry because it takes, a little bit. Now, what I did do was I changed my greeting. So, I'm Canadian. So in my family, we say mum instead of mom. So I have my mom and I have my to my. To my mom. I mean, I even say mom here, you know, when I'm talking to people. I don't know. That's how I just pronounce it. All right. Even if they say mom, I just say mom. All right. And I loved the layout of this card. So I did it kind of similar. Using the basic white thick again for my card base. I seem to use that a lot. It's a nice heft. It's clear, clean. You know, you can see. All right. And then what I did was I love this paper. So this is a striped paper that I use, but I'm flipping it over so I have this watercolory look instead. And I also cut it so that it has a frame around it. So I'm just going to use my seal. So this time it has a frame. It doesn't glue, you know, right on the card. And that way you can see that white card around it. I also have a piece for the inside. And then I just cut myself a little strip to go on the bottom. And then I have one of these flowers. This one here. I'm just going to put this on the inside. And I'm going to use the green tip glue. And I'm going to glue it right flat. So I'm just going to bend this a little bit so I can kind of stick that up underneath. There we go. I want that to be up underneath, you know, so it looks like it's kind of there, you know. Anyways, all right, so we have this. So it could be kind of like a tablecloth or whatever. And then we'll see if I need to trim that flower. So I will have to trim that because we don't want it to hang out and catch on the envelope. Okay, so it's just peeking out of there. All right, so there's the inside. And then I love the circle thing going on. So I'm going to do the same thing with those. And I did the same die because the flowers were perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to put this one. Now, before I glue them, I'm just going to kind of go like this. And then that one will go there. This one almost looks like a baseball, like baseball stitches. All right, so there's those two. Let me get my dimensionals. Okay. And then I'm going to put this one here. I'll move it up a little bit. Okay, and then this one. It's gonna go here. And this guy is gonna go there. Kind of sneaking out there. All right, so we have to my mom this time. I'm also going to put some bling. Let's get my dimensionals. I think I'm going to cut these in half because I'm really having to be careful when I put those on there. So I'm just going to use my edge pieces because they are basically a half a dimensional. Oh, but you know what? I need to take some of those off. Hang on a minute. I forgot. All right, so we're just going to roll that off. If you make a mistake, just roll it. This one I don't think I have to worry about. Okay, but to my how straight is that? Okay, but my mom is going to be over top. So I just need to put it on the side like I did before. So to my mom. Like that. And put a little green tip glue to hold that down. And then I picked the shimmering dots as my bling. I'm looking for, here it is. Because they're, you know, really sparkly and they are colors that I used. So there's white, there's lemon lime twist, and there is like a pool party, Coastal Cabana kind of look to it. So I just have to figure out which ones I want to use. And I think I'm going to pick the blue ones. Hopefully everybody out there was going, use the blue, and you weren't screaming, do the green. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll stick one there. There is the Stampin' Up version 1. My twist on it. Because remember, they use different designer series paper on the back, and then here is my twist. So it's very close to being the same card. I mean, I could have moved my to my down on this one, and I still can. But this one just has a little bit more color going on, but it's really fun. So hopefully if you haven't got that paper, that designer series paper, you will grab it. All right, so let me say, see you later, alligator. So yeah, I love adding that Wink of Stella in there for that glitter. I was gonna do, because you can use the fine tip glue pen, but I always have issues with it coming out of the thing, and I just went, forget about it. And I used the Wink of Stella, which is so easy to use. And then we also have those shimmering brushes, and that worked too. But that blue was a little bit brighter, and I wanted to stick with the pool party because that was the designer series paper color. So there's different things you can play with, but anyways. All right, so hopefully you like that. I hope you'll come back on tomorrow, Tuesday, for my Teach Me Tuesdays, and that will be 3:00 Arizona time, same channel, and have a really cute project to share with you, or technique or whatever. I don't know what to call it, but make sure you come back. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.